longest time. You know what it is, it's Cuckshack. Kabier quits the furry community, what's up with that? Let's find out.
Okay, we are back after what seems to be like, 3, 4 something months? Probably less than that. But either way.
Probably more.
Yeah, probably more. To keep Cuckshack going in spirit, we have brought back the guest from our very first episode of Cuckshack, the original, Kabier, now Cab's Corner. Still technically the same thing. And the reason we are bringing her back is because we had difficulty making new Cuckshack episodes with a furry theme, primarily because we feel that the furry community's kind of behavior in the last half a year or so has been really not positive. So it's very hard to pick subjects that are positive to talk about.
Well, the past several episodes have just been bitching about how bad the community is. So
yeah, and then that's not really the reason I made a podcast. The whole point of Cuckshack was to try and promote positivity and positive role models within the community.
Creativity. To
show that the furry community is better than the stereotype that is presented in the mainstream of cringy, kind of narcissistic, self-indulgent behavior. I want to break that trend, prove that there is people in the community that don't indulge in that kind of behavior, but the deeper we pried into it and the more we got involved with the community, it turned out that that was true the whole time. All these stereotypes. So at the end of it, by the end of the year of Cuckshack, it was getting really, really difficult to find people that weren't doing all of those things. So the people that we did find were also kind of burnt out on all the politics as well. So all the cliquey behavior and all the fucking...
It would have just been the same podcast, but with different people. You know, all the people that were once an active part of the community became very what's the word, I guess pessimistic towards the community in general. So yeah, that kind of halted work on Cuckshack just a little bit. Yeah,
there's 3 primary perspectives on the furry community. There's naive, where you just don't know any better, you're new to it, you're very excited, everything's new and fancy, you get really overwhelmed by the sheer amount of positivity that you're embraced with at first, the showering of appraisal that people tend to do. And then there's the gossipy drama people, where you kind of transcend that first phase and it becomes about, okay, well, how come I'm not getting attention anymore? Oh, it's because it's being derived from these more popular people that are bringing in the content. And then the third one is burnt out, where you're on the back end of that kind of treatment and then you're kind of done with it. So what we ended up doing is we were inviting a lot of people onto the program that were burnt out, and the people that we brought on that were naive would transition to the second phase and then hate the show and then hate the people on the show.
Well, yeah, the majority of people who were on Cuckshack now hate us and hate the show.
Well, they
only did it for publicity at the time of what they thought would be good publicity for them, and then when they realized that it wasn't fitting their agenda, they, flip. And it's a shame, because I feel like a lot of those people are good people deep down, but they're just misguided. It sucks, what mob mentality will do to people and how it manipulates people and basically drives them into neuroticism and hatred of everything around them. It's sad, but that's what the community has come to now, I feel. And I don't know how long it's going to take for it to reverse itself, or if it ever will, because the more we look into it, as Jason said, the more we realize that it was never a good thing. We were just kind of blinded by I guess popularity or shit like that. I don't really know what to call it, but yeah.
I mean, the main thing that blinded me was I didn't want the narrative that I had formed for myself, my worldview, that furries are a good thing and that they're not looked at in the right lens, that they are these great, talented, creative people and they just get a bad rep. My fixation with reversing that stereotype led me down a path of just ignorance, trying to intentionally let those kind of behaviors slide, oh, it's not that bad because XYZ. If you just look at this, you'll see that the furries are good. But the ratio from well-versed, well-educated, mature, disciplined furry people and the alternative is astronomically out of order. Like there's the amount of people on one hand that don't do the high school kind of behavior of gossip and cliques and all that kind of stuff is like 4 or 5 people that I know out of the hundreds that I've met. It's pretty bad. Like the reason that furries get the reputation is like of one of the worst communities on the internet outside of like bronies and stuff like that is because it's true. Like they're not really socialized.
Yeah.
What tends to happen is that young people get attracted to the allure of escapism. You don't need to really improve yourself anymore once you have a perfect character, a persona, and you don't really need to be that creative because you can just grab any kind of species. Like the amount of species that are already available without you needing to think is pretty limitless at this point. Grab some primary colors, slap that together, add some sexuality on top of that, and you're done basically. And you can get admiration and adulation just from that. You don't need to put any effort in, whereas if you just go to school and you expose yourself to other people as you are with flaws intact, it kind of teaches you that in order to be likable, you kind of have to improve yourself.
I think, yeah, well, that actually reminds me, like one common thing that I saw when I was like an active member of the community was that a lot of people made their quote unquote personas their perfect version of themselves, in which like they don't represent themselves how they currently are at all. And when you think about that, it's kind of unhealthy because it, like Jay said, it is a form of escapism, and it basically reinforces the fact that you don't need to improve because your online persona whatever is perfect. That's something I got stuck in for a long time, was that I'd make these perfect versions of myself through animal characters and stuff, and I let my own problems slide for the longest time. It led me down a path of like anger actually towards the community, and before I left I was very, very angry. I was very toxic, intentionally getting myself into situations where people could attack me and I could attack back, because I guess I was just at a point where I was done with it. I was so fed up with people saying things that weren't true, that I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna be what they want me to be. I'm gonna be the worst version of myself possible. And I did that. And eventually I snapped out of it when I got banned from Twitter.
Suspended. What happened is you got one of those flags which like delete this tweet because it offends someone. You're like, no, I'm not doing that. That violates my morals. So you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna just
nuke my Twitter. Yeah, I wasn't willing to go against my own morals just to appeal to Twitter and the ideology. It wasn't worth it to me. Twitter was an unhealthy downward spiral of mine to begin with.
Well,
so I cut it out of my life completely. And ever since then, and ever since ditching like Fur Affinity and crap like that, it's been a lot better for me, I think. Jay, what would you say? I'll let you take the
before we
reins.
continue, just to continue on the previous point, Twitter in general is tied to depression. The people that use it tend to have higher rates of depression, identity disorders, stuff like that, because those kind of biomes where it's all about the person that is the most sensational, the most hysterical, or the most like attractive is pushed to the top, and everything else just kind of fizzles out and doesn't really get any attention, really teaches a bad kind of mental, like repetitive kind of pattern of attention seeking. And it's very competitive too, and that's kind of what bleeds into the furry community as well, is that when every single person is perfect, what do you do then? Well, it becomes not only who is perfect in terms of appearance and sexuality, but how much money you make. So that's why the furry community, out of most communities, tends to be constantly enthralled with high priced like commissions and stuff like that. Like there's always some drama going on about like a piece going on for several $1,000s, or people flaunting their income over other people, and that makes them even more insecure. Then they go to even more extreme measures. So what happens at that point is you get what you see now in 2019, where it's just witch hunts 24/7. When you can't outperform someone and you can't outperfect them, you attack that character and you try and lower their status beneath you to try and get a leg up.
And it's not even like sometimes it's real. Sometimes, you know, some of the witch hunts turn out to be true, but like 90% of the time, or I'd even go to say like 95% of the time, they're all fake. Just to tear someone down and chase them off the internet, essentially. And
because they hurt your feelings, or they triggered you, or there's something about them that you don't like, so they can't exist.
And I can say with complete and utter honesty that I have not experienced any animosity in any of the communities that I've tried to like dive into, just kind of figure out what I like. I've been myself. I've told them what has happened, like in the furry community. You know, all the things I've done. I haven't hid anything, and surprise, surprise, no one has a problem with it. Because outside of the furry community, it seems that people have an actual brain that they can, you know, process information with, decide, you know, whether something is right or wrong in a normal way. And if it's wrong in their morals, then it's okay. You know, you can agree to disagree. You don't have to always have an us versus them mentality, which is something that is extremely prevalent in the furry community right now. It is constantly us versus them, us versus them. It is never like, you know what, I have a different opinion than you, but you know what, that's okay. We can get along. There's none of that. And when I came to terms with that, I think that's when I really realized, I said, no, this is not the community for me. It's not happening. So I left it. I'm still getting my obligations done, like my recent furry comic, but after that, I'm completely done with doing like furry art and participating in conventions, stuff like that. I'll do the occasional drawing for like Jason and stuff like that of his character, because obviously he still likes the furry thing. Me not so much, but I'll still draw for him.
Well, that's the revelation Kate had, is that she doesn't feel as though she was ever into the artwork. She felt that she found attached to it purely for the place that it put her in terms of having like a social circle and stuff like that. When she was less confident, less healthy, less socialized, less charismatic, like basically an incomplete adult. Like she was still growing. So in the time that she was growing, she thought, oh, like it happens to a lot of people. You kind of get attracted and lured into the first like group that will take you. So in this instance, it's the furry community. But once you start growing up, they start resisting against you and they start resenting you for it. You actually become the villain because you're marginalizing all these people that are still in their growing pains. So you become the bad guy just because you're starting to inherit more responsibility, start paying your own rent, start, you know, all that kind of stuff. And what sadly happens, you start longing for a community that starts representing you more. So what do? You associate with more adults. And adults don't tend to care for that kind of high school mentality stuff.
Yeah, it's a shame what it is, but you know, it is what it is. You can't be responsible for changing an entire community of people, like thousands and thousands of people. It's not going to happen, and it's not your responsibility to do it. Basically, what I've been doing, like I guess to change the topic, what I've been doing since leaving the community is exploring like new grounds, hentai foundries, stuff like that. Experimenting with getting into drawing people, because it's something that I've always struggled with, and I feel like I've always used furry art as a crutch to kind of steer myself away from eventually getting to that point where I had to draw people. Eventually forcing myself to do it enough, it got to the point where I was confident with drawing non-furry creatures and stuff like that, and I've been really, really happy with the progress I've made, and I feel like it's greatly improved my art and my confidence. I've made a lot of great friends through like all these new communities and stuff like that. I absolutely love Newgrounds as a community. That's kind of where I've planted my feet as of right now. It's very, I guess like the early days of DeviantArt where there was always contests and community and stuff like that, basically before it came kind of Pinterest light. It's kind of like that. That's kind of the vibes I get from it. Tom Fulp, he obviously really, really cares about, his community, and he's always got their best interests in mind. And God, I hope that doesn't come to bite me in the foot later if something bad happens with Newgrounds. But as of right now, I'm really happy with how things are going. It's good. I don't really know what else to say about Newgrounds than that. I don't know, Jay, you want to take the reins?
That's how it is. You just got to contemplate and self-reflect every now and again and go, is this community that I'm in generating more stress than I would have without it, or is it actually alleviating stress? And in terms of the furry community, we basically became parental figures because we were growing up. So it became more stress than what it was worth. We weren't actually getting much out of it anymore on an emotional level. It became like busy work.
Every convention we went to was miserable. There was always some fucking drama that happened.
It's sad because we'll have fans that approach us and want to talk to us because they're having a really bad time. And then you'll have people that are just wanting to hang out with you because you're popular, and then they make the bad times for you. There's not much maturity to them. It's a lot of just partying, getting drunk, getting hammered, drugs, sex.
A lot of drugs.
So if you just want it, you can't even host a panel without some politics getting in the middle of it. Like if you try and talk about any touchy subject, because they're being developed into a safe space, you can't touch them.
Well, most of all the panels are just like, transgender this, transgender that. How do I identify your gender? Are you struggling with gender? It's like, this is a furry community. Like, why is gender being brought to the forefront of a community about fucking like human animals?
I think the heart of the community has changed. I don't think it's about furries anymore. I think it's about identity. What I described.
Identity politics.
Well, yeah, that's what happened because perfection and narcissism has been pushed to the top. Those are now the hard issues of the community. It's not about your creative outlets. It's not about creators. Creators can go get fucked at this point. That's why they've all been pushed away. It's all about just identity. That is the sacred, anything against the identity is blasphemy now. So if you push for self-improvement or critique, pushing people to improve their characters, as much as lovely as perfect characters are, they're not interesting. And if you so much as say that, it's like, oh, give this character some flaws or flesh them out. You're the enemy now. You're the villain. How dare you hurt the feelings of this artist?
Or take it one step further than characters and criticize the people. It's like, well, I'm not gonna name names, but you're gay. Okay. What else? Do you have flaws? And if you so much as question what else there is to someone's personality besides I'm gay, I'm transgender, I'm blah blah blah, you're just attacked for it. People don't want their flaws to be opened up online. They don't want to have that conversation because they want to look perfect just like their characters are represented in artwork and stuff like that.
Or they want to look like victims, and if they're at any fault, then they're not as much of a perfect victim. Because the whole point of victimhood is that someone is oppressing you. So if you're doing damage to yourself, if you have anything about you that is unhealthy, that invalidates your victim complex. So you have to be a perfect victim. You have to be completely innocent, completely faultless, and everyone is against you. But the sad thing is once you start reinforcing that and even convincing yourself that that is true, you stop trying in life anymore. Why try when you could just blame other people and get rewarded for it?
Yeah, pretty much. I guess we should steer the conversation away from bitching about furries, since that's kind of what we said we wouldn't do at the start of this episode. What would be a good topic to kind of steer us into?
Well, that's the thing. Is the whole reason that we put up Cuckshack. What is the future of this podcast if it's not furry?
I don't think there is a future for Cuckshack, to be completely honest. Not with the way that the furry community is going right now. Not at all. So, unless you take it away from focusing on furries and just focusing on creators in general, maybe you can take it somewhere else. But
I mean, if we get to that point, I feel like the podcast should be rebranded, because the whole gag of Cuckshack is it's making fun of furry drama. That's why it's got its name. People trying to rip on us and all that. So, and plus, like, the whole presentation is furry. It's all about mascots and all that. So once you start stepping out of that zone, how do you represent that? Do you just draw people? You know, like normal people with normal lives making just, you know, professional content?
It would just turn into, like, Schmuck or Sleepy Cabin. You know, like,
Well, is that a bad thing?
No, I don't think so. But I think there's already podcasts for that sort of, like, audience. I mean, I guess there's no harm in making more content, but yeah, I think there's already podcasts like that out there. You know, the whole reason we were doing Cuckshack is because there weren't really any grotesque, dirty.
Well, that's the thing. It was a
furries.
counterculture furry podcast. We were sick of the only voices that were available in the furry community being all about the fluff. It was like tabloid magazine podcast. Oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, I love your fursuit. Oh, thanks. Oh, you look great too. Oh, I know. Isn't like every convention we've ever been to the best? Oh, absolutely. And then that's the amount of depth you get. There's no like, how are you feeling? Like, what struggles do you face? Who are you as a human being? You know, like none of that. It's all just presentation.
And if you dare delve deeper into who someone is as a human being, you'll just be attacked for it. So I don't recommend doing it. It's just not worth it. But yeah, I mean, what else haven't we covered? I'm trying to think here, and I'm drawing a mental blank.
Well, how about you talk about what you plan the future of your content is going to be after drawing furry content for what seems to be 5-6 years? Is it difficult to do that mental switch and just prioritize different things all of a sudden? Do you have your next like 12 months planned out? Like after you obviously finish this furry comic?
I think it was difficult at first trying to contemplate where I wanted to go after the furry community. It was a lot of like experimentation and stuff like that. But I think I've got a really good idea of where I want to go now. Like I still want to make comics and stuff like that, but I'm gonna focus on like my own original creations and stuff like that aren't in a furry styled universe. And I'm really excited to tackle that. Like I've got like I think like 4 different ideas for comics lined up. All of them it's like seem really appealing, so it's gonna be hard to choose which one to do next. I'm also getting into like 2D animation and stuff like that, so trying out TV Paint, Toon Boom Harmony, all that stuff. I've made one like looping animation that I made in TV Paint and what's it called? Adobe Premiere. That was fun. I haven't done a 2D animation since 2015 or something like that. I think it's been a while. But yeah, I'm also gonna be working on like comedy animations and stuff like that with Jason. So like we're currently making like a Resident Evil 2 parody animation, which is probably gonna take a while to get done. But I'm really excited to check that up on like YouTube and Newgrounds and stuff like that. Yeah, it's gonna be good. I think I do have the next 12 months planned in the sense that like, all right, I've got a comic that's lined up, or like 4 of them. I've got like lots of animations to do. I've got lots of ideas for pinups and stuff like that. You know, I want to try going to Anime North and stuff like that, just to try out like a different kind of convention setting, either Anime North or like Comic Con in Toronto. I think that's actually soon. Something I don't remember when it is.
Yeah, it's early in the year from memory. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably in March, I think.
Well, you're getting married this year. That's something that's happening.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We're Jason and I are getting married Come September 10th, I think that was the date that we ended up deciding on. We're going to be getting married in Australia. So we're going to be there for 2 weeks. And then for our honeymoon, we're going up to Tokyo, Japan. We're going to be staying there for 2 weeks, and then we're coming home. Since ditching Twitter and all that, I've actually picked up like learning Japanese. I used to be really into learning all different languages, but Twitter kind of ate up my time. It was kind of an addiction.
She went from ordering food every single day from Uber Eats, sleeping in, only being up for like 12 hours a day, sleeping way too long, putting on a lot of weight, being depressed, being angry, being stressed out all the time. And that was while she was paying attention to the furry community and Twitter and shit. And then once she dropped that, she quit. Gym every single day of the week, cooking every day, visiting her grandmother like every week. They picked out a dress together and all that. Contacted all of her old friends that she had dropped during her stay in the furry community, like old high school friends and all that. Reconnected with all of them. So she's been studying her Japanese basically every single day as well. So basically reversing all of those habits, those negative self-destructive habits that were only there in the first place out of the obsession with being perfect. And what ends up happening is you end up doing the opposite. You spend so much energy convincing people that nothing's wrong that you actually spiral even more, so you enter full-on denial.
Yeah, I was in a lot of denial for a long time, and I feel like being a part of the furry community definitely flared my neuroticism to an all-time high. I've always struggled with like anxiety, neuroticism, depression, stuff like that. But since leaving that community, it's gotten so much better. I haven't had to rely on like doing drugs every day and stuff like that. That was something that was really bad for a long time. I was constantly like smoking weed to just forget. Not doing that anymore, so that's good. And yeah, it's like Jay said, I've been going to the gym, losing weight, getting fit, all that stuff that I've always wanted to do, but never gave myself time for because I was too addicted to like social status and drama and all that crap. It's just been a lot better. I'm really excited for what the future has to hold. And yeah, it's looking up.
Yeah. I'd say that covered a lot of what people were wondering what was up. Do you want to like any like closing opinions or statements or anything? How about before we do wrap things up so that people can get more closure on your furry shit, what's your thoughts and feelings about your endeavors trying to like do furry stuff with other people? So projects, scaling, like game development, like anything that you've worked on with other people. How do you feel about that?
Like projects I worked on in the past?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel good about them.
Why?
Everybody that we worked with would always flake out on us, and then, because we're the popular ones, we always got the blame for it, and still do. And there's no amount of convincing you can do to tell people that it's not our fault, because, the little guy is always the victim. It can never be.
That's the thing. When you have a community based on victim culture, nothing gets done. This is what happens. You get these big resumes and appraisals from small nobodies, people with like 3 viewers, but they insist that they have the same kind of passion and aspirations as you do, and they just don't have the voice. So you give these people a chance, and what happens 2-3 weeks into the project, every time they exhaust their status points, so they only really join in the first place to tell their friends that they're in works with popular people and that they're on a popular project. And when people don't care about that anymore, they lose complete interest. So they just disappear into the shadows where they came, and all that you're left with is the project that has your reputation on the line and no positions filled anymore. And this cycle wraps around forever. We're at the point now where we don't trust anyone from the furry community at all to work on anything with us unless a firm contract is in place.
Like a
legally binding contract.
Yeah, like
that's
going
how bad.
to a lawyer and getting everything. Yeah,
that's the extent in which we determine furries as unreliable workers at this point. Like if they drop projects now, then they'll go to court, or they'll be financially at like way more than what they've been paid for back in fines.
Yeah, because it's just too much on our heads. Like our reputation and
that
down to the point where like a lot of people just don't want to work with us anymore because they think that we can't get things done. And it's like, well,
and so
I've had artwork
we
done
can prove,
like sitting there for months.
We have
like,
the assets done for the whole, like a year's worth of assets sitting there
like
that just need to be implemented.
Amorous, for example, I had the art done 2 years before it was finished. That's how long I had the work done.
All the writing
there.
was done, dialogue choices, all the characters, all that, all finished. Just
and yet, you know, we still get the blame for it. That, you know, we're not hard workers. We just leech off of people, all that stuff. It's like, it's just not true.
That's in part why all the projects that just involve me and Kate, like the comics, end up getting all of our focus, because there's no one we have to meddle with to get those done.
Yeah, I can just rely on myself, and they go for it.
And then people get mad at that you don't include them. It's like, well, you
well,
need to
people
put the
get
effort
mad
in.
that I make too much money now because I'm working too
They're
hard.
unpleasable,
It's like,
Kate.
well,
Like, you can't
what do you
win.
want me to do? Do you want me to not work?
Yeah, they
You
want
know, or
both.
do you want
They
me to
want you
work?
to simultaneously not be successful, but give them what they want at the same time.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah, I guess we should was that our closing statement?
Well,
I think we got
well,
derailed
like
again.
this whole episode's about what's up with Kabier, how she, like, what she'd been up to, like, is
Well,
there any
yeah,
other?
a lot of people, I guess, have been asking like what I've been up to, and I think that kind of cleared the air in terms of, you know, yeah, what have I been doing? Oh, okay, this is what I've been doing. I guess.
How about this? Would you recommend someone that was your age when you first discovered the furry community to join the community?
No, absolutely not. Stay as far away from it as you possibly can. Because
do you recommend they go to conventions to meet people?
No. That's the worst place to meet people, because a lot of the people that do go to conventions, and I'm sorry to generalize, but this is from my experience of 5 years of attending, a lot of the people that go are only there to either fuck, drink, do drugs, or just flaunt their fursuit.
And what tends to happen is if that you're a very like optimistic, naive, happy person, you will be a target for drugs and sex.
People will manipulate you and use you, and it's not good.
They will not respect your boundaries. They won't respect your relationship boundaries, and you can't really trust people either. People will say that they're decent, and then they're not. When they get the opportunity to turn the cheek, they'll do it. And it's kind of sad, but that's just how it is. It's just a very juvenile community. It's still growing. It's not that old. It's only been around for a short while, and I feel that.
Well, it's been around for like.
No, not compared to other communities.
No.
It's one of the youngest.
It's been around since like 1990.
No, it's been around since the 70s or even before that. Like, it's
Yeah, I
been around
guess,
for
actually.
a couple of generations, but that's still very young compared to like the fantasy community, the comic community, the anime community. They've had plenty of time to mature themselves and get the right people in
far
power.
more culturally acceptable.
As a result, that's the thing.
Well, I guess in closing, to make like a final statement, to the furry community in general, I would like to say that I am sorry for my animosity when I did leave. Like, I left on a very bad note. I was very, very angry, and although I don't agree with a lot of what you guys are doing, I can empathize with you and understand, you know, why you're doing the things that you're doing, because I was there. So yeah, I'm sorry for that, and I truly hope that with time, you know, the community can become a better place. I do hope so. Anything you'd like to say, Jay?
If the furry community improves itself and gets better in your eyes from a spectator, would you rejoin it?
No, because I don't think it will. But even if it did, I still don't think it's for me. It's just not my cup of tea, and I've been so much more happy doing.
Do you feel
my
like
own
it'd
thing.
be an invitation to regress?
Yeah,
That's why.
Yeah, probably. That's probably a good way to put it. Yeah, it's like, why would I go back to being an angry, you know, vicious person when I can just be happy doing my own thing. Like, I don't need a sense of community, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't need a label to be happy. I can just draw whatever I want to draw, do whatever I want to do, say whatever I want to say, and just that's me. I don't need it to be a furry, like a weeaboo, a fucking like hentai artist, whatever. I'm just me. I'm Cabs. That's that.
Yeah, you've you've gone through the identity searching and you found out that you all you need is you.
Yeah, basically, and that's where I'm happy sitting at. So if anyone's got a problem with that, then fuck them.
Yeah. And I'd say as my closing statement, my recommendation for people that are titillated by the idea of trying the furry community or are new to it or don't know where to go, just do that. Focus on yourself. Don't worry about impressing anyone else. If you're not getting any traction with your furry character or your Twitter and all that,
delve into other communities. Like, stick your foot in every pond, you know? Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Well, that, and ask yourself why you need to be popular in the first place and what the end goal will be. When do you think you'll be satisfied? Because what often happens is that if you actually look to the people that are popular, they're not that happy about it. It's not enjoyable. It's just stressful. It's annoying. You don't want people constantly fucking biting up your ass all the time.
You don't want people constantly digging into, like, you know, your past, digging into your personal information, doxing you, all that shit, making up rumors that just flat out aren't true. You do not want that. Being popular is not fun, okay? You don't want it.
There's no pot of gold at the end of that rainbow.
Yeah.
If you want to get ahead in life, focus on developing a talent. Empower yourself with skills, discipline, patience, empathy, conscientiousness, and avoiding catastrophe. Like, preparation is also very important. So you'll see a lot of people in the furry community always begging for monies because they don't do any of that. They spend all their money impulsively. They like buy fursuits that they shouldn't, when they should be like spending it on rent and all that. Learn to save money. Learn to, like, I can't tell people what to think and feel. Like, if you aren't someone that likes being in a monogamous relationship, don't do so. But I would say having someone you can bond with is very valuable for your health, because it allows you to take in someone's perspective in close proximity that knows who you are, that can tell you when you're a fuck up. You need someone that, like, it's not healthy to date a mirror image of yourself. Like, two perfect people, quotation marks, perfect dating, is doomed to fail, because there's no picking back the skin, like pulling the skin back and then criticizing the faults. You need to... Relationships need arguments and disagreements to actually work. If you are not arguing in a relationship, there's something wrong, and that's gonna blow up in a bad way. Try and date someone with flaws, like, that actually embraces them and wears them on their skin if you can, and then become that person. And if you do that, you can work at it together as a cooperative relationship, and you'll be a lot healthier for it. But like I said, I'm not telling anyone how to live. Yeah, it's important that you go through these kind of journeys. The old saying is, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I can't make anyone grow up. I can't force anyone to listen to me. All I can do is present my own wisdom that I've learned from this series. If you go back to the first episode, there's a big attitude change in just one short year. It's been a journey, and I don't know what the future is for this podcast, but this is probably the last episode, being that you've got your first guest on again. I mean, it would kind of be a good place to end it. Yeah, I mean, it's poetic in a way. You end where you begin. You know what I mean? Yeah. Full circle, but you never know. Who knows where? Like, if that much can happen from 2017 to 18, who knows what the end of the year will be like? We'll be married by then. We'll probably be looking into a house by then. Whatever fruit that is presented from the labor of changing communities will be presented by then. You never know. Like, maybe the furry community will get its shit together, but at the end of the day, it's not our responsibility. We got to put ourselves first. We're gonna put our lives first. And yeah, we'll see. Like, hopefully, more people that were in our position can either prop up what is left of the furry community or move on as well, and maybe what will be born as a result of that, like a phoenix, will be something better. Try to see our mistakes
and learn from them and try not to make the same mistake. If you have to make the same mistake, then that's something you have to do to learn. But, you know, life is a learning process, and that's just that.
Our last attempt to salvage something out of the furry community is that we're hoping to make a platform, like an art platform, kind of like DeviantArt, kind of like Newgrounds, but a more mature platform for furries, like for fringe furries, the people that already are kind of distancing themselves from like the core politics of the furry community, kind of want to like a more disciplined experience. We would like to make that, but at the same time, we promoted this, like the creation of the website on the furry platform. So the results of that come really down to how committed other people are. Again, we're not back-end server people. We're not front-end like website developers. We're artists and we're creators and we're community people like that. So what we can do for that is limited. We can promote it. We can put our own investments in it. We've got a lawyer and all that now. We've got an accountant. We've made that investment. We've made contracts. That is about the limit of what we can do besides put output in. So if that project fails and doesn't come to fruition, then it's the same symptom of the bigger problem, and maybe that's the ultimate sign that we should give up in the furry community. But we'll try. So we'll give people updates on that. Hopefully the platform does happen.
Yeah, and if you want to know where I am, I'm on Cab's Corner, like Newgrounds. That's my name that I go under now instead of Kabier. Just a fresh start. You know, I've always had the nickname around for a while, so that's what I'm going with now. Hit me up on Newgrounds or on Discord if you want to chat. But other than that, I don't have any social media like Twitter, stuff like that. So
I'm primarily on Twitch. I stream weekends. You can check me out there if you want to talk to me directly. I'm also on Discord. I'll have links to my group Discord, stuff like that on Twitch and Newgrounds. You can get me on Newgrounds. I'm not as active on there yet. I might be. I'm not really active on FA anymore. Mostly YouTube and Twitch. That's what I'm trying this year. And if that isn't what I want to do, then I'll figure it out. That's how I've always been. I've always been someone who bounces around creatively. So we'll figure it out. Thank you for checking out Cuckshack 2019. Where the future goes, we don't know. That's the beauty of it. Have a great day. Have a great life.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Is this the end of Cuckshack? Yes, it is.